Louisville police busy today as they continue to look into 6 shootings over the weekend that sent a dozen people to the hospital. Break down each incident and how the victims are doing. And the impacts of gun violence can last far beyond the shootings. The survivors say the emotional pain sticks around. Hear from one woman about how she's using what happened to her to help others. And a man escapes police custody, sending officers from all over Jefferson County on a manhunt. After days of searching, police say that the man police say busted out of a window of a car to avoid court, not behind bars this morning, but is in custody. The details behind how he was found and what's next for him.
This is Wave News Sunrise.
Well, happy Monday. I'm Josh Ninke in for Shannon Kogan, here with Tawana Andrew. Beautiful weekend. Looks like a beautiful start to our Monday, too.
Yeah, we're seeing a gorgeous sunrise starting across the area. And we're keeping an eye on the roads as well. The storm tracker is out this morning, keeping an eye on the sunrise and on what's happening on the highways. And things are looking pretty good for our Monday. We're going to take it. We've had worse Mondays this year, so yeah, we're going to take it. We're going to continue to see more of these upper-level clouds that are streaming in right now, continuing to move in from the west as the day goes along, but still plenty of sunshine in today's forecast. That's going to take us from the upper 40s and low 50s, where we are at the moment, to near 80 degrees later on this afternoon. So we will see those clouds overhead, but still nice and warm for your Monday. Now, while things are quiet everywhere across the region right now, we will add in a few chances for rain as the week goes along and let you know what days have those better rain chances in just a bit.
Thanks, Tawana. 6 different shootings in about 24 hours. The city of Louisville is recovering after yet another violent weekend. A dozen people personally impacted by gun violence across the community. The most recent was around 9:30 last night in PRP. Police say officers found a man with a gunshot wound at the scene. He's taken to University Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. A little bit later, 2 more men showed up at Southwest Hospital with gunshots. Police believe they were all hurt in that very same shooting. A man is also in the hospital after being shot during a carjacking Sunday morning. The victim said a man and a woman took his car around 4 a.m. on Dixie Highway after holding him at gunpoint. He said he was trying to run away, and that's when the man shot him in the leg. He should be okay, but police have not made any arrests. And just a little bit earlier, a 3-year-old had to go to the hospital after a shooting in the Parkland neighborhood. So around 3 a.m., somebody dropped the child off at Norton Children's Hospital. The child had a gunshot wound in the leg. After investigating, police say he was shot on Greenwood Avenue and South 32nd Street near the Boys and Girls Club of Kentuckiana. Officers are still interviewing people, but no charges have been filed at this time. Now, the shooting with the most victims happened in the Portland neighborhood Saturday night. Police say 3 teenage girls and a woman were shot on North 34th Street just before 11. Officers say they were all around 17 years old. They're taken to University Hospital and should be okay. And around the same time, a mother and her 5-year-old son were hurt in a shooting in the Russell neighborhood. It happened on South 24th and Magazine Street. Now, the mother's 3-year-old was also at the scene, but they weren't hurt. Police say those 2 shooting victims should both survive. And one man is recovering after a shooting when he was shot around 8:30 Saturday night. Investigators found him on Beecher Street near Churchill Downs. They believe the shooting actually happened on Hathaway Avenue. The victim should be okay, and all parties involved have been accounted for. The non-fatal shooting squad is investigating. Now, this violence becoming all too common for a lot of people. With more than half of those victims being kids, the events hit closer to home for one shooting survivor. Janae Wright was robbed at gunpoint and shot multiple times about 2 years ago. Happened while trying to get into her home, putting her and her unborn child's life in danger. She's had a long road to feeling normal again. In Wright's case, she's taken the fight into her own hands and now works as a trauma interventionist at U of L Health, a role she hopes can help survivors like her move forward with their lives.
I want them to know that despite going through what may potentially be the most difficult time of their lives right now, they do have a strong team of individuals, organizations, and even the medical professionals behind them, ready to support them.
Wright says if it wasn't for the resources that she got from trauma interventionists, she doesn't think she would be where she is today. So she encourages others to give it a try and take advantage of all the help that's being offered. Now, thousands have donated money to help survivors of mass shootings in Louisville. And tonight, there will be a town hall to discuss just how those donations should be given out to victims and their families. This is all hosted by the Community Foundation of Louisville, as well as the National Compassion Fund. They're focusing on victims' families and survivors of both the Old National Bank and Chickasaw Park shootings. The Park shooting town hall will be tonight at 6 at the Louisville Public Library's main branch south. The Old National Bank shooting will be covered tomorrow night at the main branch north. A man driving a motorcycle died in a crash last night in the Okolona area. Police say it happened around 5:30 at Outer Loop and Robbs Lane. You can see it right here, close to Jefferson Mall. They say an SUV was heading west when they tried to turn left onto Robbs Lane. That's when they hit a motorcycle that was headed in the opposite direction. That motorcycle driver died at the scene. The driver and a passenger from the SUV were taken to University Hospital, and they should be okay. LMPD's traffic unit is investigating this, and no charges are expected at this time. A man police asked for help finding last week after a hatchet attack is now behind bars. According to court documents, Cortez Cunningham was arrested on Saturday. He's charged with assault and criminal mischief. Police say he and the victim got into an argument and then grabbed a hatchet from his vehicle and chased the victim down, hitting him in the shoulder. Cunningham is expected to be arraigned in court this morning at 9 o'clock. And after being on the run for more than 2 days, fugitive Norman Wolf is back in police custody and expected in court this morning. Wolf escaped from a vehicle near I-265 and I-71 interchange Thursday while being taken to Trimble County for a court date. On Saturday, LMPD says they spotted Wolf in the passenger seat of a vehicle on Washington Street, east of Campbell Street. Officers stopped the car, and when they asked the driver to step out of the vehicle, Wolf slid right into the driver's seat and led LMPD on a brief chase. They caught and arrested Wolf near Brownsboro Road and Lindsay Avenue. Nearby business owners, though, are just glad this is all over.
I'm so happy for the law enforcement, finally got into custody. Yeah. So, but we're kind of nervous. We kind of keep a lookout, ask the customer and see anybody see him or anything. But I know the guy was in the area, this area here, so we kind of, make sure everybody lock their car and stuff like that. So keep the door locked.
LMPD says Wolf was taken into custody and then to U of L Hospital because of some injuries from his escape on Thursday. They say he's facing numerous charges and will be taken to Metro Corrections when released from the hospital. He's on the docket to be arraigned later this morning. The jury finds a man guilty in a deadly shooting on the National Turnpike. James Ledwick was killed in August of 2021. LMPD says Faisal Hassan told them he shot Ledwick because he was stealing from his business and armed with a power tool. The Commonwealth's attorney says a jury found Hassan guilty of reckless homicide. Hassan is expected to be sentenced to 3 years in prison at a hearing on July 21st. A southern Indiana funeral home owner found with dozens of decomposing bodies inside his business will have to wait to change his plea. Randy Langford appeared in Clark Circuit Court Friday morning, but lawyers did not present a plea agreement. Prosecutors say he had 31 decomposing bodies inside the Langford funeral home in 2022. Now, he's facing several charges, including more than 40 counts of felony theft for services not rendered. The court says the plea needs to accurately address paying restitution to more than 40 victims.
Look what the man's done. I really am not going to accept an apology because he's not sorry. He's a very sick, demented individual that needs to be punished way more than he's getting.
Langford is due back in court this Friday. He also faces more than 24 civil lawsuits filed by family members who claim he mishandled their loved one's remains. The former president of the Louisville Urban League, Kish Kumi Price, only lasted 5 months on the job before her abrupt departure. She says she was fired out of retaliation, though, after she says she saw, quote, misappropriating of grants and other funding by the Urban League. She says she was let go the day before she planned to address all of this with the board. And she claims there were conflicts of interest for some of the board members and officers. She says part of a multi-million-dollar donation by Humana was used to pay off a loan, but the company had not been informed of that. Among other claims, Price says Louisville Urban League's employees were expected to work for the Sports and Learning Center while being paid by the Urban League. Now, Sadiqa Reynolds, the former president of the Urban League, responded, saying Price's allegations have no merit and will be resolved in a court of law. The Urban League itself also responded, denying the allegations. All right, here's Tawana with the next 12.
And over the next 12, we're going to climb to near 80 degrees for a high, keeping plenty of sunshine in the forecast for today. So overall, your Monday is looking fabulous. And for those of you hitting the roads, make sure you grab the sunglasses because we are seeing plenty of that sunshine now over the horizon. No issues showing up in terms of accidents or stalled vehicles right now. And let's hope it stays that way.
Well, Debt ceiling talk has been circulating for weeks, but a decision today might change that. A racing weekend not passing without tragedy after another horse euthanized at Churchill Downs and at the track ahead of the Preakness Stakes. We'll tell you what more we know ahead at 6:30.
This is Wave News Sunrise.
Welcome back. Your time is 6:12. Well, some federal disaster assistance is on its way to Jefferson County for damage caused during a windstorm in March. Remember this one. The money will be used to pay for the emergency work and repairing several power lines. At the peak, more than 200,000 LG&E customers were without power after strong storms hit on March 3rd. Jefferson joins a list of 76 other counties that will also get some assistance, including Shelby, Bullitt, and Hardin counties in our area. Tawana, I know you and the weather team keep talking about how just a wild year it's been for wind, and I'm hoping we're kind of done with all of that.
Well, at least for this week, the wind not as much of a factor as what we saw earlier this year. Remember, as we started off the year, we saw multiple instances of 80-plus mile-per-hour wind gusts outside of any rain, but that is not what we're expecting for today. This morning, we're watching these upper-level clouds moving on and high pressure remaining in control of our weather for today, and starting off with a beautiful sunrise. In fact, I'm going to step out of the way so we can just take this in. It is a Monday, right? Starting to see that sun getting closer to the horizon. We're going to see sunrise around 6:30 this morning. Your temperatures right now in the upper 40s and the low 50s. So overall, not too bad as we're starting off the day. Some of you, if you're a little bit more sensitive to these cooler temperatures, you might need a light jacket. As we continue throughout the morning, we'll watch more of these upper level clouds moving on in, keeping them through the afternoon. Highs today near 80 degrees. Now, once we get into later on this evening, yep, those clouds still overhead, and we're going to see temperatures falling down into the 50s for most of us overnight. So temperature-wise, not too bad. As we look ahead to your Tuesday, we do add in that isolated rain chance. That's mainly going to be for the afternoon and mainly for those of you across Kentucky. So we'll keep an eye on that. Temperatures tomorrow, though, still warming easily into the low 80s. Looking at the rest of the 10-day, we do have a front that's going to push through on Wednesday, and along with it, we see that small rain chance in the forecast, but the main thing we're going to notice is the massive temperature drop. We're going to be going from those mid-80s on Wednesday for highs into the low to mid-70s for highs on your Thursday, and by Friday morning, going to be a little bit cool out there, 40s for our morning temperatures, but it will not take us very long to warm up as we get through the upcoming holiday weekend. Here comes those 80s jumping into the mid to upper 80s, it looks like, for Memorial Day itself. Right now, keeping those rain chances low, but there's a couple of systems nearby that could bring a few isolated showers into the forecast, and that is something we're going to watch closely. Now, as we get towards the end of next week, we're talking some more of those upper 80s potentially for highs around the area as we watch some more of those showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. So overall, getting pretty toasty, but hey, we're getting closer and closer to the beginning of summer, so this is expected. But for those of you who aren't a fan of the warmer weather, just enjoy Thursday and Friday when they roll around, because it really is looking like we're going to keep those 80s in the forecast for quite a while, Josh.
All right, a reminder, spring, I guess, almost done. Thanks, Tawana. The debt ceiling debate reaches a pivotal moment today. President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy will meet in person without any other congressional leaders. Bree Jackson is in Washington with the very latest.
President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy meeting one-on-one at the White House today as the two sides try to find common ground over the debt limit.
I've done my part. We put forward a proposal to cut spending by more than $1 trillion. Now it's time for the other side to move.
We may philosophically disagree, but we have respect for one another because we're coming from a place of principles.
Negotiators met behind closed doors on Capitol Hill Sunday, with the White House team emerging tight-lipped about any progress. But earlier in the day, Republicans hinted that differences remain.
A red line is spending less money, and unless and until we're there, the rest of it is really irrelevant.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen stresses that early June is a hard deadline for raising the debt ceiling and warns some bills would go unpaid.
We have to pay interest and principal on outstanding debt. We also have obligations to seniors who count on Social Security, our military that expects pay.
Federal leaders say just the threat of a default can weaken consumer confidence and hurt the country's credit rating.
It's the risk of the downgrade that we got to worry about, which is why it's incredibly time sensitive. There's no question about it.
Time is running out to avoid a first ever government default. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.
Well, breaking overnight, new details are emerging about the circumstances surrounding the death of a migrant child in Border Patrol custody. Immigration officials now confirm the child's family sought medical attention 3 times before she was taken to the hospital. Kathleen Ninke has the details in this Wave News Alert.
The mother of 8-year-old Anadith Reyes Alvarez says agents ignored her pleas to hospitalize her medically fragile daughter. She was born with congenital heart problems and sickle cell anemia. Border Patrol confirmed late last night that, yes, she was seen by medical personnel 3 times the day of her death. When she finally had a seizure, they took her to the hospital, and that's where she died. The last finally resulted in taking her to the hospital. CBP confirms they knew about her pre-existing conditions. They say they're taking new steps to ensure care for medically fragile migrants like her. Anadith was born in Panama to Honduran parents. 8 years old, Josh.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Mental health was a big focus during an event at the African American Museum over the weekend. Look at the different programs that they had and how they could help our community.
Here's a look at the current Kentucky Lottery jackpots. The Kentucky Lottery, over $4.4 billion in grants and scholarships.
Well, hundreds participate in a walk over the weekend to make wishes come true for children fighting serious illnesses. It's called Walk for Wishes, a nationwide Make-A-Wish fundraiser. The walk started at Kentucky Kingdom Saturday morning. After the walk, people got to enjoy the theme park for free. Teams that raised more than $100 got another ticket to enjoy the park for free on another day. Our own Tawana Andrew walked in this event in support for someone in her fiance's family fighting an illness. Tawana, how was that this weekend?
It was so much fun to be a part of that and just see all the families coming together and everyone supporting that over the weekend. And also it was fun for little Ava, who is 5, to kind of interact with other kids who were dealing with serious illnesses as well. So it was just a good time this weekend. The rain cleared out just in time for that, so it was absolutely wonderful. Now, as we continue throughout this week, we're going to be seeing more of that sunshine around. Highs near 80 degrees for this afternoon. A few isolated rain chances for Tuesday and Wednesday as we watch those temperatures warming up a little bit more. Now, for Thursday and Friday, behind a front that moves in Wednesday night to Thursday, we are going to see some cooler temperatures. 70s for highs then, and then we warm up yet again. Highs near 80 on Saturday, jumping into the 80s Sunday, and then soaring into the upper 80s as we get towards Memorial Day, so a lot more of that warmth showing up in the forecast, but not a lot of that rain showing up, at least for now.
All right, 'tis the season. Thanks, Tawana. Breaking news just in. Facebook's parent company Meta is fined a record-breaking $1.3 billion for transferring European users' data to the United States. Kathleen Ninke explains in this Wave News Alert.
This is the largest fine ever given under the EU's signature data privacy law. So the judgment reads this came after an investigation found millions of users' data was transferred to the U.S., violating this EU law. But Meta says they're appealing this decision, that the transfer of data across borders is fundamental to how the internet works. Meta says thousands of businesses rely on this kind of data transfer. So we'll see what happens to this fine. Josh.
Thanks, Kathleen. Mental health was front and center at the Roots 101 African American Museum over the weekend. The museum held its second ever Mindfest yesterday. They had mental health programs focusing on self-care, motivation and movement, and a grief workshop. There were even events for the kids, like storytime sessions, toddler play sessions, and some family-friendly Zumba classes. One of the organizers, who works for Norton West Louisville Hospital, told us how events like this really help our community.
One, you want to support the community and all the activities we have going on, especially going into summer, and then specifically mental health, because that's one of the biggest issues that we're tackling in the city right now, and we're partnering with folks like everybody here, specifically for West Louisville Hospital.
The event was free for the public, and if you want to check out the museum, which I recommend, they open Tuesday at 10. And kids of all ages and all abilities have a new playground to visit in Hillview. The ARC of Greater Louisville Volunteer Group has been working on this playground designed to be accessible by all children. And this weekend, they finally dedicated. Look at that. That's so great. It's got ramps to get on different parts of the play sets and special swings that children in wheelchairs can use. And it doesn't just help the kids.
And then it's not just wheelchairs. We have grandparents who are raising their grandchildren now, so they're able, if they have walking issues, then they can even walk up and through it too. So it's not just limited to children. It's for all ages and all abilities.
You can visit that park on Prairie Drive in Hillview, right next to Overdale Elementary School. Can't miss it. Louisville spent the weekend celebrating one of the country's most beloved kind of dogs. It's these little guys, a bunch of pugs. We're talking about the Bluegrass Pug Fest. People from all over the nation came to have their furry friends compete in beauty contests, talent shows, and even a little bit of custard eating. We asked one owner why she loves pugs so much.
Why do you not love pugs? She's my first one, but now I wonder how I did all those years without a pug. And we came 700 miles down here for this Pug Fest, so she will be crowned queen again today.
Quite a ways to come. Congratulations. American Kennel Club lists pugs as the 28th most popular breed out of the more than 200 groups that they recognize. Election season is upon us. Both Kentucky governor candidates are hitting the campaign trail pretty hard, too. We'll tell you how they plan to earn your vote this November.
This is Wave News Sunrise.
A little creepy, but whoa, a lot creepy. Never mind. A buyer paid $32.8 million for this 10-foot-tall bronze spider. Crafted by Louise Bourgeois in 1996 and entitled, creatively enough, Spider, the sculpture is part of a whole series. The French-American artist made a lot of these, which can be seen at some of the world's most prominent art museums. She didn't start sculpting spiders until she was in her 80s. She died in 2010 at 98 years old. When I read the script ahead of time, I was like, oh, I bet it's going to be kind of a cutesy little spider, you know, a bronze statue.
That's terrifying.
That is genuinely pretty scary.
Yeah, not a fan. I mean, like, it's cool that she's crafted all of that out of bronze.
Right, a lot of talent.
But not for me.
Yeah. But what is very cool and not creepy is this beautiful sunrise we got.
Yes,
that's
absolutely
nice.
Gorgeous. A lot prettier. But we do have a spider that's typically on this camera. That is a spider I do like, though. We're keeping an eye on that sun now coming up over the horizon. So we're off to a pretty good start for today. But notice those upper level clouds overhead. Yep, those are going to stay with us throughout the day. So those are streaming in from the west right now, and they are going to remain with us as we continue even into the afternoon. Right now sitting in the 40s and low 50s, so temperature-wise pretty comfortable out there. Over the next 12 hours, soaring to near 80 degrees for your highs with those clouds overhead. So remember, these are going to be those thin upper-level clouds, so plenty of sunshine will still be able to filter through. Now, for those of you with allergies, I'm just going to remind you of this. The tree and grass pollen remaining very, very high over the next few days. Now, we do see a few isolated rain chances showing up for Tuesday and Wednesday. Let you know if we'll see any more of that rain throughout the rest of the week in just a bit.
Thanks, Tawana. New at Sunrise, we now know the names of two people killed in separate shootings last week. The first happened around 2 Friday afternoon off Olive Street. The man was shot multiple times and then taken to the hospital where he died. The Jefferson County coroner identified him as 23-year-old Javon Bailey. People who live nearby say Bailey was working in his yard and actually just finished mowing the grass when he was killed. The other happened on Wilson Avenue around 1:30 Thursday afternoon. There, police found Vixen Gray. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, police have not made any arrests in either of these shootings. Governor Andy Beshear is traveling across the Commonwealth, kicking off his general election campaign. After securing the Democratic nomination with more than 90% of the vote, West 6th Brewery in Lexington gave a warm welcome to the Kentucky sitting governor. This was just one of his stops across the Commonwealth. He plans to visit 15 different places to reach the entire state. In his address to the public, Beshear congratulated the state on what he says has been a successful 4 years under his leadership.
We have the largest rainy day fund in our history, which led to the first bond rating upgrade in 13 years, which, folks, means the pensions of every teacher, police officer, firefighter, social worker are safer than they've been in decades.
And Beshear was backed by Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, as well as his parents. Now, his opponent, Republican Daniel Cameron, also kicking off his campaign for governor. 5 other Republican candidates joined Cameron for state office at a news conference in Frankfurt. Cameron revealed part of his strategy to make Andy Beshear a one-term governor.
Andy Beshear is, during this election season, going to try to take credit for things that he didn't do. I often tell people it's like the person who was born on third base but thinks they've hit a triple. And we're going to remind people of what his actual record is.
Cameron has served as Kentucky Attorney General since 2020. If elected, Cameron would be the first black man to serve as Kentucky's governor. Well, a 9th horse has now died at Churchill Downs. This was over the weekend's races. 3-year-old filly Swanson Lake was running in the 6th race at the Downs when she hurt her left hind leg. The veterinarian said they could not operate on the injury, so the horse had to be put down. 8 horses died in the days leading up to the Kentucky Derby, including 2 that had to be put down on Derby Day. Now, multiple investigations have been opened into those deaths. After winning the Kentucky Derby, Mage went into this weekend's Preakness as the favorite. But unlike the Derby, Bob Baffert's horses were allowed to actually enter this race. That includes National Treasure, who would ultimately hold off Blazing Sevens to win the Preakness. Now, just hours before that race, Baffert lost a horse at the course. Having a meltdown, suffered an ankle injury on the 6th race. Several veterinarians examined the horse and found it had a non-operable injury, so they decided to euthanize them. Jockey Luis Saez was flung off the horse and hit the ground pretty hard, rolling several times on the dirt. He was taken to a local hospital where he's said to be in stable condition. Baffert issued a statement on Twitter saying, quote, "We're just devastated. This is a shock to everyone at our barn who love and care for these horses every day. Having a meltdown was obviously hit pretty hard coming out of the gate. And we don't know if that contributed to the injury, but we will be fully transparent with those reviewing this terrible accident. Right now, our thoughts are with Luis Saez, and we are hopeful he'll be okay." And you might remember, this wasn't the first hard fall Saez has taken. Earlier this month, he was on Take Charge Brianna when the 3-year-old filly fell during a race at Churchill Downs. While Saez was reported okay, the filly had to be euthanized on the track. And dozens of protesters lined the sidewalk outside Pimlico this weekend, many carrying their message on signs, some of which said horse racing is a cruel form of animal abuse that must end. Well, the Volunteers of America hosted a picnic to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of their Liberty Place program and the men who have used it to overcome addiction. Last year, VOA's Shelby Men's Recovery Center changed their name to Liberty Place. Their mission is to help men fight substance use disorder and get them on the path to live healthy and productive lives. VOA President and CEO Jennifer Hancock says Liberty Place offers evidence-based services for the men who are in the program.
We have a number of volunteers who come in and do everything from a spiritual reflections group to an empowerment group to financial literacy classes.
Hancock says the men who attend the program either decide to come on their own or they're referred by a judge. The historic Louisville plantation is shedding light on its past. During the height of the slave trade in America, as many as 60 African Americans were forced to farm hemp at the Farmington plantation. In a country that continues to struggle with racial issues, the Historic Society is remembering those men and women. On Sunday, there was a rededication ceremony for the memorial commemorating the enslaved. It's designed so people can contemplate the nature of slavery and its impact on both the local and national level. The Kentucky Blood Center is celebrating a major milestone. Their life-saving work has been shown across the Commonwealth for almost 6 decades at this point. So now you can find the Kentucky Blood Center in one of their 8 facilities across 6 counties. Sunday marked the Kentucky Blood Center's 55th anniversary. The organization was built from the ground up. They went from serving just 6 Lexington hospitals to now serving more than 70.
It's kind of a neat look back for us, and also we hope a kind of a reminder. It comes at a time when the pandemic is ending, and we hope it's a reminder to folks that, hey, the need for blood has never stopped, and it's bigger than ever, really. So we hope this motivates people to come out this week or later this summer.
They cover almost all of central and parts of eastern and western Kentucky. The Kentucky Blood Center making an impact clearly across the Commonwealth. To learn more, you can visit their website, kybloodcenter.org. Here's Tawana with our next 12.
Over the next 12, going to see those temperatures climbing to near 80 degrees. Plenty of sunshine already, seeing that sunshine showing up on many of our SkyTrack cameras. So beautiful start to the day. And our storm tracker is not out in the roads, but looking at the waterfront, check that sunrise out. Yes, we'll look at that since we're not looking at any issues on the roads right now. A beautiful start to our Monday morning.
When you think of a hospital, the words happiest day of your life rarely come to mind. But for one couple, they really did. Andy and Alana Morgan got married inside Baptist Health Floyd's ICU. The hospital transformed the unit into a wedding chapel so Alana's dad could see the ceremony. He's having a triple heart bypass surgery next week and could not leave the hospital. Alana says there's no way they were going to have the wedding without him.
It means the world. That's something that really mattered to me, and once I figured out that he wasn't going to be able to be there, I knew that this was the right thing to do.
I wouldn't have wanted to do it without him. I mean, he's one of the main important parts of this whole thing, so I was along with the decision, and it was what was best.
The couple says they decided to move the ceremony last Monday. Their original wedding date was this Saturday. A Jeffersonville Middle School student needs your help to win the Doodle for Google student contest. So this doodle right here on your screen is from River Valley Middle School 7th grader Alice Lim, who was selected to represent the entire state of Indiana. I can see why. That's very impressive. This year, Google asked students to draw their own version of the Google logo, inspired by the prompt, "I am grateful for," and Lim chose her mother's love. You can vote for her doodle through this Thursday. Now, one of these will have their doodle featured on Google's webpage for one day. And that winner gets a $30,000 scholarship, and their school gets a $50,000 tech package. Got a link to vote in this story over on wave3.com. Tawana, what a beautiful drawing right there. That's really impressive.
It really is.
A 7th grader.
So much talent. And the fact that she chose her mom.
Yeah.
Oh, that gets you in the heartstrings right there. It really does. Love it. Absolutely love it. Now, we are looking at some artwork of our own. This sunrise showing up on our storm tracker camera this morning. A beautiful start to the day. But keep in mind, we are going to be keeping an eye on some more heat taking over. I'll explain in just 30 seconds. Good morning, everyone, and one more look at this gorgeous sunrise showing up on our storm tracker. Absolutely beautiful as we're starting off Monday. Not too shabby at all. We are watching these upper level clouds rolling on in this morning. A lot of those coming in from the west and south, and we're going to keep these in the forecast throughout the day today. We're sitting in the 40s and low 50s this morning, so some of you might need that jacket this morning, so just keep that in mind as you're heading out. Some of those mid 40s showing up in parts of southern Indiana. As we continue throughout your Monday, we're going to be watching for more of these upper level clouds gradually taking over, but still the sunshine will be able to filter through, and that should take us to near 80 degrees for a high later on this afternoon. As you roll into tonight, still some of these clouds overhead, but we're going to cool down just a tad, ending up only though in the 50s across the region for your Tuesday morning. And speaking of Tuesday, we're going to be seeing some more of those clouds overhead, more of that warmth tomorrow as we jump further into the low 80s for your highs on Tuesday. There is that potential for a couple of isolated downpours showing up in the forecast for tomorrow afternoon, and that's mainly across Kentucky. But other than that, things looking pretty good for your Tuesday. Wednesday will add back in that isolated rain chance across the area with a cold front that will be moving through. And this front not bringing a lot of rain because there's just not a lot of moisture for it to tap into, but it will help to drop our temperatures down. So we're going to go from those mid-80s for highs on Wednesday down into the low to mid-70s for highs on Thursday, and then we'll be talking about 40s for morning temperatures as we roll into Friday morning. A little bit cooler, especially for this time of the year. Getting into the upcoming holiday weekend, yep, going to be warming up even more, near 80 on Saturday, jumping into the low 80s come Sunday, and then for Memorial Day itself, for those of you planning any activities or taking part in any activities, we're talking about upper 80s for highs, and for right now, rain chances are looking low, but with a couple systems nearby, we do have to keep an eye on that rain chance pretty closely, but we're going to keep that low for right now. We'll watch for some more of those showers and thunderstorms in the forecast towards the middle of next week as we start to get more of that moisture, that summer-like feel back into the forecast, with highs doing their best to get pretty close to 90 degrees. So, I mean, with Memorial Day around the corner, not too surprising to see those upper 80s to near 90 degrees for a high showing up in the forecast. Josh, I don't know if I'm ready for it, though.
I'm certainly not. Let's keep those 70s around long as we can.
I'll work my magic. We'll see.
Thanks, Tawana. Doctors at Norton Healthcare in Louisville are seeing an increase of strep throat cases. More people are turning up at care clinics with a sore throat and fever. Other symptoms like swollen neck glands, inflamed tonsils, and stomach aches. School-age children have the highest risk, but adults are still testing positive. Norton Children's has treated more cases of strep throat so far this year than in all of 2022.
It's important to get on antibiotics because, one, it's going to make you feel better faster and possibly reduce the severity of your symptoms, but also it's going to make you less contagious to others.
They say with strep, people who get the antibiotic, they can return to work or school after the first 24 hours. Without medicine, you can remain contagious for up to several weeks. Experts attribute the rise in cases to a return to normal activities after COVID precautions kept numbers down for the past few years. And the American Heart Association says it wants to make teaching CPR to children more common. The association says receiving CPR can triple a person's chances of survival. Experts say teaching kids the technique early will save lives because roughly 350,000 cardiac arrests occur outside of hospitals each year.
If there is an emergency that happens, important for kids of all ages to know what they're supposed to do. You can start kids as early as 4 and teach them that skill. They may not be able to deliver it effectively at the age of 4, but we'll start the process of them learning.
The Heart Association says parents should also make sure their children are familiar with AEDs. Well, it's tick season in Wave Country, and while some tick bites are itchy for a few hours, others can result in years-long medical issues. Kathleen Ninke is live in the studio with more on how to protect yourself.
The Indiana Department of Health just put out an advisory, Josh, but doctors say this is important advice for essentially everyone because everyone can get Lyme disease or another tick-borne illness. So first, what we have to do is understand where ticks are likely to be, and that's close to the ground in grassy, bushy, or wooded areas. Then protect yourself. Treat your clothing, shoes, and outdoor gear with 0.5% permethrin. Permethrin should not be used on your bare skin. For that, use EPA-registered insect repellents like DEET or oil of lemon eucalyptus. There are a bunch. And while you're outside, walk in the center of those marked trails and check your clothing regularly for ticks. When you come back in, check yourself and your clothes for ticks. Go ahead, put your clothes in the dryer for 20 minutes. That'll kill them. And shower quite soon after you come in. Treat your pets for ticks. There are several tick-borne illnesses that we're worried about. You most likely hear the most about Lyme disease, symptoms like fever, fatigue, a skin rash. It can go on for months. Also, babesiosis. That's a parasite that can make you very sick. And alpha-gal syndrome. That's the one that makes you allergic to red meat. Quite dangerous if you don't know you have it. And there are so many more. The important thing is to get diagnosed and get treated quickly. Otherwise, things could get even worse. They say you can save the tick that bit you, but generally it's not recommended to test the tick, so you don't have to save it. They found it doesn't really help. Really, what they want you to do is flush it down the toilet or wrap it up in tape and throw it away. Josh?
Can do. Thanks, Kathleen. Every year, a handful of golf teaching professionals across the country qualify to play in one of the biggest tournaments of the year, PGA Championship. Coming up next on Today, the winner of the PGA Championship's Low Club Professional Award is speaking out in a live interview after his unforgettable weekend. You don't want to miss it.
I'm Kathleen Ninke with this Wave News Alert on the big stories we're watching today. And today, Louisville's own Jennifer Lawrence begins the process of getting her documentary Bread and Roses in front of a larger audience. The doc she produced premiered yesterday at the Cannes Film Festival. It follows the lives of 3 women living under Taliban rule. We'll be keeping an ear out to let you know when you can watch that documentary, entirely filmed in Afghanistan. And at noon, the man accused of murdering 4 Idaho college students will be arraigned. 28-year-old Brian Koberger could face the death penalty if he's convicted on these murder charges. He's expected to enter his plea today of guilty or not guilty. President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy will be meeting one-on-one in person about the debt ceiling today. These two have been the figureheads of the opposing sides of this fight. They've said they do both agree on one thing: the U.S. cannot be allowed to default on its debts. The deadline is June 1st to take action or possibly face the consequences. Josh?
Thanks, Kathleen. A man police asked for help finding last week after a hatchet attack is now behind bars. According to court documents, Cortez Cunningham was arrested on Saturday. He's charged with assault and criminal mischief. Police say he and the victim got into an argument. They then grabbed a hatchet from his vehicle and chased the victim down, hitting him in the shoulder. Cunningham is expected to be arraigned in court this morning at 9 o'clock. After being on the run for more than 2 days, fugitive Norman Wolf is back in police custody and expected in court this morning. Wolf escaped from a vehicle near the I-265 and I-71 interchange Thursday while being taken to Trimble County for a court date. On Saturday, LMPD says they spotted Norman Wolf in the passenger seat of a vehicle on Washington Street, east of Campbell Street. Officers stopped the car, and when they asked the driver to step out of the vehicle, Wolf slid into the driver's seat and led them on a quick chase. They caught and arrested Wolf near Brownsboro Road and Lindsay Avenue. LMPD says Wolf was taken into custody and then taken to U of L Hospital because of some injuries from his escape. He's on the docket to be arraigned later this morning. And today, the Falls of the Ohio will close down its interpretive center for the summer. The park is having a complete overhaul of the building and will replace its HVAC units. They're also adding some LED lighting as well. It's not supposed to reopen until October 22nd. The park, fossil beds, picnic areas, trails, and outdoor programs, though, will be open as usual during the closure. The American Red Cross is teaming up with KFC Yum Center to hold a major blood drive this week. So it starts today at 10 a.m. at the KFC Yum Center. You'll need a blood donor card or a driver's license. You also need to be in good health and be at least 17 years old to donate. The blood donated will help restock local hospitals' blood supply. You can learn more about the event over at wave3.com. And if you're looking for a summer job, free lifeguard classes start today with Louisville Parks and Recreation. If you want to be a lifeguard, got to be at least 15 years old and complete the CPR and AED certification classes. So the Red Cross is providing free classes for those who agree to work for Parks and Rec for 1 year. Classes will take place starting today from 4 to 9 p.m. Starting pay is about $15 an hour with a guarantee of 36 to 40 hours a week. For more information, contact the Aquatic Center's number. That's right there at the bottom of your screen. And some popular pools in Louisville will not be opening this summer. Louisville Parks and Rec says the Algonquin and Camp Taylor pools need some major repairs, and they are not scheduled to open. Instead, the city will spend the summer renovating the pools with a budget of several $1 million. Construction should start by the end of the year. There is another $100,000 in the Metro Parks budget, though, to fund alternative activities in the Algonquin neighborhood. Rest of the pools, though, if I remember correctly, supposed to open up for Memorial Day weekend, Tawana.
The weather is looking great for that. So temperatures are starting off in the 40s and low 50s across the area for this morning. As we head over the next 12 hours, looking good, a high near 80 degrees. We'll take it with some of those clouds overhead. And taking a peek at the 10-day, we do have that isolated rain chance in the forecast for you Tuesday and Wednesday, but both those days overall looking dry for most of us. We'll cool down a bit for the end of the work week and then warm right back up for the holiday weekend. So for those of you looking ahead, trying to get all your plans in order, get ready for some 80s. We'll have to watch for those rain chances, though, as we get towards Memorial Day itself. And I just wanted to end with this. Gorgeous shot from our photographer, Michael Flynn, on the Storm Tracker right now. Absolutely beautiful behind us. Gorgeous start to the Monday.
Yeah, and we need all the help we can on a Monday, especially with looking forward to a holiday weekend. It's like, get here a little closer, a little faster.
So that sunrise is putting us off on the right note.
Yeah, like
exactly.
Hey, thanks for watching Wave News Sunrise. Got the Today Show next. We're here all morning updating breaking news, weather, and traffic on TV.
Get live streaming news, 24-hour weather, investigations, podcasts, and more. All for free with Wave Now. Watch on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and the Wave News app. Sponsored by Kaufman and Stigger Injury Lawyers. Get the tiger on your side.